Say hi, Jim.
Hi, everyone. How's it going?
So today we're going to be digging into the ever-long question of, is Ethereum a security or not? I know you're chomping at the bits to get into this, Jim. First, tell me, what was the inspiration for you to even kind of want to touch on the subject?
Well, this morning, email pops into my inbox and I get the summary of the day's activities. And I saw this headline, and words mean things in my case. And Blockworks said that the Ethereum Foundation removes like a canary, voluntary warrant carry. I was like, what does this mean? To me, it meant canary in the coal mine. Something
Yeah.
about a voluntary inquiry from a state authority. And I realized that some people are poking around on Ethereum. There's some stuff that's happening. You've
Yeah.
heard of some of said things?
Well, I mean, if the SEC is getting ready to, make Ethereum an ETF, you would think that they would have to check under the hood and look at everything. Bitcoin is a little bit of an easier argument, right? Because you don't know who made it. It doesn't have a central organization. There was no pre-sale before it came out. Like, there's all these different boxes that it checks where it's like, okay, yep, that's a commodities. Ethereum, not so much.
Yeah, Ethereum's a little bit more questionable. And one of the big controversies that's created this environment where the states are starting to look into it was that the lawyer who helped Ethereum with their ICO saved all the receipts. And there's quite a depth of information. In fact, I've got a video that we'll start out with. It's about 2 minutes long, but as you know, I play things a little bit more quickly. Let's hear from him about this. Now, worth a follow is the show on X from Rob Cunningham, the Cool Show, KUWL.show. And I'm going to play this here. That's Stephen Narioff, the lawyer that I speak of. And he's talking about numbers like Enron or Madoff are going to seem like rounding errors with this thing. So there's some big dollars at stake. Let's take a listen.
Yeah.
What I did with the utility token and the ICO, and I've done it also with some other inventions in crypto, was give guidance to people of how you could actually abide by the United States laws. So I was getting persecuted, because I had done that. But then it actually turns out there was more to it. And that was very much, it turns out what I found out was the reason they had taken me out. There's no other way to say this, because I was in a very unique situation. The position I was in at Ethereum, the information I had, the documents that I had, the knowledge that I had, the people that I knew back then, the actions that were taken back then, would have exposed, and hopefully will by this show and others. Yeah, you call it the greatest fraud of all time. I think there needs to be a new name for this. Even it's not even a fraud. I mean, there's this fraud. There's international cooperation. There's governments. There's private players. It's so much is going on. I mean, we could go into some of that. But in terms of size, we talk about like Madoff or Enron or something, and those are like rounding errors compared to the numbers that we're talking about here. I believe it's numbers that starts with a T, that as in trillion, that has been fleeced from the public, not just the American public, the worldwide public. And Ethereum was basically created, for a few reasons, but one thing that they have used it for over the last 10 years is to, as a platform to initiate massive fraud on the public.
Wow, huh?
Wow.
I don't even know where to begin with that kind of thinking. I think that the best thing to do is to tell you that as we unpack a little bit of this, I started to find some things even today that help make more sense of it to me in terms of, as he's alleging, other countries are involved. And certainly we're going to crater this episode. We're going to try not to say the C word, but it becomes so evident.
I know.
And I might as well start. Well, do you know BitBoy? Do you know Ben?
I know BitBoy. Yep.
Okay. I don't. Would love to meet him. He's had the ups and downs. He's been through the volatility of the market.
Yeah.
He put together recently a rather good video trying to unpack this promethium crypto relationship to the C country. So I'm going to go there quickly, right?
Yeah.
As he talks about the Trojan horse that is this Wang Zhang group, and it all comes back together at the end. You ready?
Yeah. Show me what you got. BitBoy also uncovered stuff for FTX. It was pretty interesting. That's when I discovered him, was when he was really digging into all that stuff, because how fascinated I was by it.
Oh no, he flew out to Jamaica. He was hanging out outside the house. So despite the shirt you're about to see him that he wears, don't discount his ability to see through and identify things like this. So let's take a listen to it.
The SEC has created a Trojan horse to try to kill crypto, and the name is Promethium. Prometheus was a god who came to Earth and gave fire. The SEC is using Promethium to try to burn crypto to the ground. Let's get it.
All right. So what I'm going to do for our listeners out there is skip the commercial and go right into. We're going to skip Gary's plan. We're going to dig deeper here and play this out.
We're not paid by their sponsors.
No, we are not. What even is Promethium? So Ben does a nice job of playing this part of the conversation.
Stuff he had to say in just a moment. But this here shows, if Charles don't know who they are, this is something very suspicious. There's much, much more here. We have this tweet here. Founder of Prometheus is testifying at the hearing on digital assets today. He'll argue he represents the compliant path for crypto, and those asking for updated regs are just scofflaws. However, he's wrong on the law, and his approach cannot work as advertised. First, what is Promethium? They are a broker-dealer with no operating history. They don't have a product. They have no operating history. Okay. Since they're
So you go, why would Jim bring Promethium into the mix? Why would Jim bring Charles Hoskinson into the mix? Hoskinson, which coin does he represent?
Cardano.
Cardano.
Yeah.
And he used to, though, be the president of Ethereum. Do you know that?
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, he was there at the beginning. Now, you do know the developer at Ethereum, I'm sure.
Yeah, Vitalik. Who does
Yes. Now, have you met him? I assume you've met everybody in the space. So
I've met him. I don't know him, but I've met him.
Fair enough. So I have not met him, but he's quite prodigious. And as it turns out, he's very strong on the learning curve. So I found this other thing, and there we are. I can't stop it anymore. Let me pull up the screen. I tried not to say the C word, but here is the C word. And the question really kind of comes down to, do Chinese investors own the majority of Ethereum?
Oh, that's pretty interesting. So what's the argument? Yes?
That what? They are securities?
No, that the Chinese own, because here, are we starting our debate now? Can I get into the different parts of this that I'm thinking?
Yeah, I found like a whole nother ball of wax here. I found it wasn't that. The issue to me all of a sudden wasn't whether or not it was a security. It's like whether or not it's primarily owned by the Chinese.
So if China owns the majority of Ethereum, so here becomes my issue, right? Like, the money has to move. It's got to go back and forth. It's in order for that traction to happen. If everybody just bought and held, then there wouldn't be a market, right? Because nobody there to sell, nobody there to buy. So the money's got to move. All the projects that are built on Ethereum require Ethereum in order to build the projects, right? Then I just can't see how so many, probably 90% of the coins we just looked at, or that we look at every single day, are all built on Ethereum. You know what I mean? Or have some type of an Ethereum association, a bridge, or whatever. Like, everything is kind of tied to that. It would be interesting if I know I almost didn't say it, if China actually holds the majority, but I just don't see how they could and it still be a top 2 coin.
I think they're part of it. And so that's where this gets interesting. And you can take it at face value. It's a website. It's on the interwebs. Doesn't necessarily make it true. Doesn't make it untrue. If you ask around, I think you'll find that a lot of people will acknowledge that Vitalik did spend a lot of time courting Chinese investors.
Yeah.
He is fluent in Chinese.
Sure.
That he served as the chief scientist for Wang Xang blockchain, which is one of the premier eminent elements for the blockchain space in the world.
Right.
And so he certainly has the possibility to create the capability for the culpability of having that transpire. And so I kind of, like I said, got caught into this different path of, but beyond that, there's also a book that you can check out by Laura Shin that kind of dives deeper into all of these dynamics.
Yeah.
But the ICO, check out these dollars in terms of investment. For every $1,000 put into the mix in Ethereum's ICO, it's now worth over $6 million.
Yeah. Isn't that great? That's
oh
insane.
Boy.
It's insane.
Yeah.
But we in crypto, even when Governor Abbott opened up and said, "Hey, miners, come to Texas. We'll take care of you." Who came to Texas?
There's some Chinese miners.
A bunch of Chinese miners. Yeah. So they were coming and buying property. They were crypto is very much an Asian market. Like Asia goes crazy over it. Japan, Satoshi Nakamoto, he was a Japanese guy, so Bitcoin must be the end all, no all, be all. You've got NFTs, right, which are mostly built on Ethereum. There's just, I don't see any of that as like a big wavering red flag. So let's just play devil's advocate.
Oh, now that's an ironic term, the red flag. It is a big waving red flag.
Maybe.
Yeah, think about it. Good to go. Keep going.
So let's say they do. Let's say they do. So what? So if Chinese own the majority of Ethereum, that means what to us?
Well, here's the thing, that the fact that they're not under regulatory scrutiny, that they are been given the free pass by the SEC when the entire space remains uncertain, where it's regulation by enforcement, and you've got two that have been given, and I'll give Bitcoin all the Bitcoin love in the world. I see it. It makes sense. I get it. But Ethereum, let's say they're really having regulators giving the free pass to China. And the guy that did it was Bill Hinman, who is the director of finance, who also issued the Alibaba IPO. So the corruption in the government runs deep.
Yeah.
And in that regard, if this is, I go back to this, it's more likely than not, like in terms of, are all these possibilities random? Is it a preponderance of the evidence? Probably. I mean, I'm innocent until proven guilty. But when you start connecting all these dots, and I'll show you one more dot here in a second that I found literally as a result of looking into this, you kind of go, Hinman gave the free pass speech. Ethereum's the only other one to benefit. It's tied every other cryptocurrency in the US up into regulatory uncertainty. Congress doesn't seem to be willing to move. And now the advantage plays out to Ethereum in huge ways, like first mover advantages, developers, all the use cases, the gas fees.
Yeah.
You've got the lawyer now saying that they were corrupt. You've got Vitalik with his background. Are we really just financing the Chinese through this?
Listen, we're financing the Chinese through everything. We get all of our goods from there. Like they own a significant amount of our T-bills. Like China.
They own a significant amount of our politicians as well, it appears.
China owns us. I don't even know why we keep acting like it's not a thing. It's a thing.
Okay, you're more okay with that than maybe I am.
No, I'm not. I'm not okay with it. I think that, look, all great things fall, right? I mean, it's happened all through time. And I think that we get in the way of ourselves, and our own ignorance will lead to our fault, whatever that looks like. And I hope it's mild if it ever happens.
Right.
Unfortunately, I don't think that's the case. I've been seeing China position against us well belong before the other C word started, before the C word released the C word on us. They had the most satellites up in Leo. They had a cryptocurrency that was already working. They had crippled our entire economy. They had restricted our supply chain because everybody realized at that point who we were really relying on, and that we didn't have the means to really take care of ourselves. So just in those four things alone, they pretty much brought down almost the entire earth. And oh, by the way, TikTok is on every phone, which means they can see anything and everything that we do. They know anything and everything we do. So, I mean, I think Ethereum is the least of my concerns when it comes to worrying about China taking us over. I think they've already got a significant foothold in us.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I'm more, I suppose, like competitive. I don't personally have an issue with any one country for any one reason, but for the compelling combination of what you just described, I'm like, maybe we should be a little more heads up in terms of implications for and to our own country.
Maybe, but that greed, you saw that greed index when we talk about it, right? It's at 80 something. That greed is high, and people will look at the greed and they'll forget to look at common sense, and then they'll end up putting us in a bad spot.
Well, answer me this and riddle me this. What do you do with the corruption?
Honestly, I think we need a complete overhaul. I think our whole system, it's either going to take another country coming in and crippling our government, or it takes a civil war in order for us to overthrow the government, which I'm not saying I want to do that, and I'm not advocating that. So please don't put me on any kind of.
Yeah, I think both are happening indirectly through no cause or action of your own.
the
Yeah.
reality
Right.
is it would take one of those two things. But we need a complete overhaul. We're over the two-party system. We're over the corruption is just absolutely insane. Will it happen anytime soon? Who knows? I mean, technology is moving so fast. Maybe.
Well, here's my next question for you. We talked about Hoskinson a second ago. Mentioned he used to be the president of Ethereum. And do you know the name of his current company? You said the name of his current coin was Cardano. And you
Oh,
were
it's like the nonprofit, right? Cardano. No, he's got another company too, doesn't he? I don't know. I'm friends
he
with him on
does.
Facebook. We should
And
look
I
him up.
have it available for you.
Go ahead. What is it? Break it
And
down.
it's an acronym. He
Of
is the
course.
chief executive officer of IOHK.
Is that like Spies for Hong Kong?
That stands for Internet of Hong Kong.
See?
Could not make it up if I wanted to. So back to the is ETH a security thing, when you got Bill Hinman who helped issue the Alibaba IPO in all these capital circles with all these capital connections, and Ethereum as the regulatory free pass that he provides. And I've just provided evidence to the idea that the chief executive officer as well as the chief technology officer are deeply embedded in that community and culture, as such that Hoskinson still has his company called IOHK.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not even trying to and to your point, trying to hide it. And that the guy that has Promethium is partnered with the Wang Zhang blockchain. I'm just like, are we going to give this whole industry? Is that how much of that 2.5 million, right? Let's say 2.5 trillion. I said million. Let's say 1.3 trillion is Bitcoin. We'll put that off on the side.
Yep.
But the next biggest chunk, which is how much? $423 billion.
Sure. I mean, you said 2.5 and then 1.3. I had 1.2, but you could go.
2.5 is total trillion. Half that is Bitcoin.
Yeah, 1.3.
And then the next, we'll call it 243
okay.
billion belongs to Ethereum. So let's say this asset class, like I am talking about, nobody likes algebra. Let's say it explodes to go to 10 trillion or 100 trillion. I'm just not a big fan of providing all that to so much of it to one foreign country that we are in direct competitive stature for, much less the way that they, how do we say it, do business?
Yeah. Or just
a dictatorship?
Yeah, the way they do people. I don't want to be in part of any kind of credit society or social credit. I'm good. My social credit's good. I gave myself.
Your social credit score is good. With your OG status and background and context and my forward-looking strategic consideration set, we have a tendency to be right over the target more often than not. I'm not saying it is or isn't a security. Ultimately, the courts and the governmental bodies determine that. What I am saying, though, is we got a China problem with Ethereum.
Yeah, and I will say that this was not a debate at all about whether or not it's a security.
No.
But definitely, honestly, I didn't know any of this. It's very enlightening, and I'm probably going to go down a rabbit hole tonight, digging in a little bit more.
Well, follow-up episode, even if we don't publish this episode, we got us an episode. Take a look. I can't even wait. I got to go. I'm late for my next presentation. It's been another great all-time high episode. Who knew we were going to be here when we started the year? Thanks, Deanna. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.